Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Rising. We have a great show planned for you this Tuesday morning. What do we have, Kim?
Well, we have Democratic strategist Michael Starr Hopkins and Washington editor of Real Clear Politics, Carl Cannon, here for Team Rising. Journalist and CEO of Status Coup, Jordan Sheraton, and journalist and co-founder of Status Coup, Jen Dees, and the great Marianne Williamson will give us some updates on the Stephen Dosinger case that Chevron has personally reached out to us about.
But first, during a meeting with the Iraqi Prime Minister on Monday, President Biden announced that the United States will be out of Iraq by the end of the year. Let's take a listen.
It's just to be available, to continue to train, to assist, to help, and to deal with ISIS as it arrives. But we are not going to be by the end of the year in a combat mission.
Yeah, so basically, fundamentally, nothing's going to change is what he's actually saying. So, what's interesting about this is that there are 2,500 troops in Iraq right now, and a lot of them are special forces, and they are doing special forces missions, and there's Apache helicopters that are in combat. And what they're saying is they're going to change that, but they're going to keep the 2,500 troops in Iraq, and they're just going to repurpose them for training.
Right, training and advising and hanging out and battling ISIS, on and on it goes. We hear there's some new declaration that, oh yes, now it's finally over. Every couple months, right? We've been doing this for 17 years virtually since the mission accomplished banners first flew over the country, this country that we destroyed for what everyone admits is no good reason whatsoever at this point. So, I guess slow progress, slow, painstaking progress in a positive direction is, I guess, a good thing, but it's never actually enough, and it's never actually the end of this miserable conflict that we created, that no one supports, no one wants to continue, that has no point, that has stretched far beyond never really had any legitimate national security rationale, and certainly doesn't today. So it's really, it makes me roll my eyes every time I hear people go, oh yes, it's finally over. What do you think is going on?
Right. It's never over. At the end of the day, nobody really wants to remove troops from Iran's border. Right. And Iraq is right there. And so the entire point of being there, and we keep making up excuses. Of course, at first it was Saddam Hussein and weapons of mass destruction that we never ever found. And then it was, and then we said that, like you said, the mission accomplished banner only 2 months after being in there. We went in when March of 2003 is how long we've been in there. That banner of mission accomplished that Bush announced was May of 2003. And then we said that we were withdrawing troops, ending combat missions. This is not the first time this has happened. That happened again in 2011. And then, of course, the Syrian civil war and the rise of ISIS happened. And so Iraq had to ask us to come back and help them battle ISIS in 2014. So we have been in this circus battle. And by the way, ISIS has been defeated since 2017. Right. So we're years after that point, and yet we're still there. And they're saying, oh, now we're going to end combat missions, but we're not going to be withdrawing any troops. So what really is the difference? That we all know the point of being there has nothing really to do at this point with ISIS. It has nothing to do with really helping rebuild Iraq. Or training their forces. We've been training them for nearly 20 years. I'm pretty sure they're good by now. We're just there to make sure that we have Iran surrounded. Yeah. And that is why I also don't think we're really ever truly pulling troops out of Afghanistan. Again, we're going to kind of try to make up some more excuses, but really this is just keeping the status quo going. Nothing's fundamentally changing. It's just lip service to make people think, oh, yeah, Biden's actually doing something.
ISIS that exists, by the way, because of the destabilization we caused in the region. So if we continue to intervene in the region, there will always be someone new who arises from the ashes of the last group we destroyed. We create more problems, and then we say, well, if we pulled out, who would solve these problems? But we're the ones creating them.
And we're seeing that now even with Afghanistan. We're seeing the reports coming out of more civilians killed now than ever, than in the past so many years, and, kind of coming up with reasons why we need to actually stick around. So the narratives are being built. And the reasoning to keep us there just continues to march on to, again, keep up that status quo of making sure that Iran is surrounded, because it's ultimately all about Iran. It has really nothing to do with Iraq. And the Iraqi people have asked us to leave. They've got various militia groups that continue to, attack U.S. bases. And then, of course, we use that as an excuse to stay, but they're attacking us because we're staying. So it's sort of this chicken and egg sort of thing going on over there. And, they don't want us there. I mean, they don't want us there. At the end of the day, what Iraq really is afraid of, what their government is afraid of, is being a battleground for a proxy war between the United States and Iran. They don't want to be Syria.
Yeah, they don't want us there. We don't want to be there. Everyone from the hardcore left to the Trumpist right, and also the middle of the country is despite our very tribalized, politicized time where supposedly no one can agree, the people want out. The government thinks we could stay there forever. Executive Vice President of the Quincy Institute, Charita Parsi, explained on this show why some Middle East countries prefer U.S. involvement.
With Trump gone, with Biden administration clearly signaling that it's leaving Afghanistan, that it's seeking to leave Iraq as well, the Saudis have had a wake-up call. They realize now that they do have to pursue diplomacy with a whole host of regional actors, not just the Iranians, the Qataris and others as well. And that is something that we should be encouraging. That is a good thing. And we have to recognize that to the extent that we had massive amount of troops, 19 bases, 50 to 60,000 troops in the region, we actually disincentivized some countries from pursuing diplomacy because it was always easier and cheaper for them to have us resolve their problems for them.
Yeah, I mean, you probably get this too. I get accused of being like an isolationist all the time. I'm not an isolationist. We should, of course, have diplomacy with these countries. We already have diplomacy with countries that do all sorts of bad things. Then some we countenance their bad behavior, and then others we strongly condemn and militarize and warmonger against. But no, we can talk to everyone. We can foster healthier, peaceful relationships. We need to pull out militarily. We need to not threaten and bully and have this massive troop presence there that makes things worse for the region. I mean, how could anyone disagree at this point? It's all been for very little gain, and we've killed hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have died in these conflicts that have been going on since I was in high school.
Yeah, we've left that entire region completely debilitated. I mean, this is not what we have done in other countries like South Korea or Japan or Germany, where after a war, we actually did stick around to help them rebuild and actually built them up into prosperous nations. What are we doing in the Middle East exactly? I mean, we said we were going in there to get rid of Saddam Hussein or to get rid of Osama bin Laden, and we did that. And then we stuck around and continued battling. And like you said, we've just been pummeling these countries, blowing them to bits and pieces, killing hundreds of thousands of people, leaving them in shambles. We have not been look, a lot of us are even against going in nation building. We need to be building our own nation. And I know we are getting accused of being isolationists. And people then say, well, what about all these people that are suffering human rights abuses? But I'm sorry, the biggest human rights abuse you can suffer from is death. And that is what we've been doing over there in the Middle East, has been waging, being a grim reaper in a lot of ways. And so it is time to get out of the area. But a lot of people have other invested interests, and other countries in that region do prefer to have us there. And we need to sort of wake up to that. And, most people in America have never even been to the Middle East.
Yeah. And it's not like this is not a mistake we've made once. It's not like we made the Iraq mistake and then we were committed, but we'll never make this mistake again. We made this mistake in Afghanistan. Obama, despite running on a platform against these things, made the same mistake with Libya, considered making the same mistake with Syria, and it just goes on and on.
On and on.
Yeah. We wanted to also discuss another moment from Biden's meeting with the Iraqi prime minister. Biden actually snapped at a reporter who steered off topic and asked about the vaccine mandates for healthcare workers at the VA. Let's watch that.
Veterans Affairs is going to have a mandate.
You are such a pain in the neck, but I'm going to answer your question because we've known each other for so long. It has nothing to do with Iraq. The answer, no. I'll answer your question. Yes, Veteran Affairs is going to, in fact, require that all docs working in facilities are going to have to be vaccinated.
The vaccine mandate at the VA marks the first of its kind by a federal agency. I don't know if how you felt about this, Kim. He kind of snapped at that reporter, which is something Biden does from time to time. I don't think he does it with the same level necessarily of hostility that Trump used to do, but it was the case that we would have this whole war on the press narrative going on every time Trump did something remotely hostile to a journalist, and that's obviously not the case. Or we don't talk about that. We don't accuse Biden and his people of the same thing.
I mean, the difference is Biden does it with a smile. Did you notice that smile? So he says, oh, you're a pain in the neck. And he says it almost like your grandpa says it to you, right? He's like good old Grandpa Joe. So he says it with a smile, and you think, okay, well, it's not too bad. I mean, you know, and the reporter was asking obviously a very, very fair question, but he was right. It had nothing to do with Iraq, and they were sitting there with the Iraqi prime minister. So I think, you know, but yeah, he definitely gets a soft pass from the press all the time. So
yeah, undoubtedly. A great discussion. We'll tell you what's on our radars coming up next.